Dr. Ron Cherubino, a doctor of alternative medicine who has, I think, 2 PhDs?
2 doctorates, yes.
2 doctorates,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah, I deal with alternative medicine, which is kind of a term that many people categorize immediately as this or that or the other. So I tell people we're into natural medicine. We're looking to move into what a lot of the world's already moving into, which is known as global medicine. The concept of taking the good out of the medical system we have now and trying to naturalize it a little. In other words, minimize the use of drugs if possible, of surgery if possible, and look for natural ways of helping the body heal itself, really. I became interested in being a doctor because I was involved in a car accident at age of 19 and ended up disabled for nearly 3 years.
My God.
And it was considered a minor car accident. It was not considered something serious. I mean, I was driving in, you know, the snow we get around here in New England, in the snow, and my drive wheel caught the, caught the snow. And I ended up losing control of the car and hitting a tree straight on. Wiped out the car and just hit my lip and my face, and they took me to the hospital, stitched me up, said, "You're fine." Within a couple of months, I started to lose my equilibrium. I started to get vicious migraine headaches, and also started to lose hearing in one ear. And nobody knew what the problem was. We went the medical route, and we spent thousands and thousands of dollars. And I went through 13 medical doctors before someone said, "You need to look at something different than this. This isn't working." Long story short, it was discovered that I had irritation of the nerves in my neck, which, ironically enough, now all these years after the fact, 30-something years after the fact, has been researched as the #1 cause of migraine headaches, irritation to the cervical nerves. And it started me on a whole different path. I felt I had a calling. Started back in college because I had been through high school but not college. And here I am today. And I originally was going to go into just traditional medicine. It was not something that I was interested in, to go into the alternative, even though I'd been helped with the alternative. But, the way it works, there was another plan for me. So anyway, I ended up a very enthused person who had been healed from very, very bad chronic migraine headaches, to the point where, and my equilibrium and everything else. So that's what really got me on track. I have a love for helping people, especially, we say we specialize in last resorts. When people say, "I don't know what else I'm going to do. I've gone here, I've gone there, I've tried everything." And there's a great reward. It's very rewarding to do that, because you've got people that, some of them literally walking because you've helped them. One of my first patients was a recovering alcoholic. And so this guy comes in and he puts on his intake form, recovering alcoholic. I was kind of intimidated. I didn't know what the heck that meant. And he was kind of almost testing me with it. He said, "Well, Dr. Cherubino, you see there, and I'm a recovering alcoholic," and he would refer back to certain things. I said to him, "Are you on any medications?" He said, "No, see, I'm a recovering alcoholic, and medication for me I have to be very careful of." To make a long story short, I realized I didn't know anything about recovery. 12 steps was something to me that you kind of maybe whispered in the back room in a family gathering, that Uncle so-and-so might be having a problem with alcohol. Don't tell anybody. He's actually gone to meetings. And I went as the guest of this patient a number of times, maybe 3, 4 times, and I think it was a great introduction for me. But one of the things I realized with my friends today, some of the medical doctors, and any of the doctors coming out of school, we're not really taught about recovery. We're talking about dysfunction, and the truth of it is, I love the saying you have, we're all recovering from something.
By offering reality therapy through the 12 steps of recovery as a proven matrix,
absolutely,
you can use it to address national, social, family, and personal problems.
It's a system that works, and it works in a way that is not just for alcoholics or drug addicts or foodaholics, something I've battled with my whole life. The concept here is that when you've got a mind and a body, and the connection of how you feel is going to affect how you function. And if function is a basic concept of health, then if you don't feel well, you won't function well, and if you don't function well, you're not going to be healthy. It is the medicine that America needs. The hurdle here is to get people to quiet down long enough to see what's going on. If people are so used to running around and going from one thing to another, and let's face it, a dysfunction in my mind is overcommitment. If you commit to 10 things and can only do 7, well, you're guaranteed failure. What would be the prescription for if you have an addiction?
Right.
Well, number one is recognizing that you need to slow down and take an account, kind of an inventory of where you're at.
You mean to like stop and think?
Exactly.
But I've read stuff from Dr. Daniel Amen.
Mm-hmm.
You're familiar with his work with the brain scans?
Oh, yes, yeah.
And his thing is change your brain, change your life, contending that when you use the frontal lobes in cognition, it increases the blood flow and actually provides healing. And that's why we claim we're a clinically proven mental health vitamin, stopandthinkradio.com, because it's making you stop and think and use those frontal lobes to move the flow of oxygen through. Is that correct physiologically?
Physiologically, and I would have to tell you that neurologically, we get into patterns.
Okay.
And those patterns can be self-limiting, what we call compensation.
I mean, like the ruts in the brain?
Well, yeah, engrams is actually what they are, and they actually do, it's almost like an old-fashioned circuit board, well, or what a computer is based on today. And you look at the circuits on there, we etch our own circuits from our experiences and from our actions. It's basically very good scientific fact that an engram is something that if you have an action and you do it over and over and over, or a thought, because remember, the body's electrical, it works on electricity, and thoughts are pure electricity. If you generate a thought and you do it enough, and then you have actions because of those thoughts, you will carve into the brain, etch, I guess is the right word, it's called an engram technically, you can look, anyone who's interested can look that up, and you will end up with a repatterned surface of your cortex. So what you think you will become and what you become becomes automatic.
You are what you think you are.
And that's why people need to stop and think. Because if you don't stop and think, you're going to keep thinking automatically. It's not like someone just picks up an alcohol bottle one day, necessarily, and starts to overdrink. It may be that someone's what you've heard, you know, the term better than I do, the dry drunk. You know, someone may have dysfunctional behavior, and they may choose to use tobacco or food, or it could be me with the food, could be anything. But is that going to affect the kids in the house and the relatives? It has to. Anything's going to be an addiction if we're not at peace with ourselves. If you recognize there's a problem, a lot of people fault me for this. I'll bring up problems for people, and I'll say things like, all right, there's this problem, that problem. Well, great, we really want to listen to you on my radio show. We do this all the time. And then I say, well, wait a minute. Listen long enough. Don't shut it off. Listen long enough to say there are some answers, and Stop and Think Radio. Bringing recovery mainstream means it's a mainstream answer. It has the potential of flooding America with healing, because it's not just the stopping and thinking, it's the support that you're able to give people, and the level of support which will grow in time. And that's the beauty of the internet, because people can go onto your site and they can participate. There's blogs, there's message boards, there's places to talk. Hey, if it's 2 in the morning, you can read what others have to say. You can leave something, and then, hey, maybe you don't sleep well, and at 4 in the morning you're back checking it again. But this is a huge community. The internet community is massive. That's a massive advantage to the meetings that I went to that were just in Framingham, Massachusetts, just the little ones right here. And then there was another one because we needed it at a different time and things like that.